Yes, hello everyone. Welcome to all our West Australian football fans for another fascinating edition of Around the WAFL here on the BackChat studios, whether you're listening on where you get your podcast or watching us on the BackChat YouTube channel. Paul Persick is my name. It's a great pleasure to have your company, and alongside me is Taylor Cowper. Taylor, how are you?
Good. Interesting weekend of footy, Paul,
It
in the
certainly was.
WAFL. Obviously, we'll get through it all very, very shortly, but I'm a bit upset, obviously, with West Perth, your mob not winning up there at Pennet Stadium, but, mate, I look like a tipping genius to Swan Districts on Saturday. Pretty happy about that one.
Yeah, I know. You should be very happy about that one. I'd look like a ham, but we did get the same amount.
We did
get 3, so it's all square, so we
Yes.
have nothing to complain about.
Exactly right.
First month of the season, when you think about it, it's unbelievably how quick the season's gone, but also how open the competition is already, with 5 teams on 12 points at the end of round 4.
Yeah, it's great. And there's a lot of teams that still haven't hit their straps yet in terms of playing really consistent 4 quarters of footy. So, yeah, lots of footy to talk about today, Paul. And you're exactly right. It is a very exciting season.
Now, you can catch us on our socials as well. We have got Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages running. Give us a big thumbs up. We really appreciate it. This is Taylor Cowper and Paul Persick around the WAFL reviewing round 4. Let's get straight into the action, TC. The first game at the WACA ground, and East Fremantle against Perth may have been 105 to 77, but the Sharks shouldn't be convinced about that. They didn't really hit their straps until the third quarter because the game was pretty much in the balance at half time.
Well, the first quarter, they played really good footy. The second quarter, I think it was 1 point at half time in this game at the WACA. Yeah, the Sharks, and I know Bill Monahan spoke about it against the Eagles the last couple of weeks when they played at Lathlane. The third quarter from the Sharks in that game was really poor. And I know that they wanted to play 4 consistent games of footy. That doesn't mean you've got to win every quarter of footy that you play, but you've just got to keep the pressure and intensity there, and they did not do that in this game, Paul, against Perth. That second quarter was really poor by East Freo. Credit to Perth. They had some great... They worked really, really well. When East Fremantle were going down the middle of the ground, there were some times where Perth just saw that and knew that they needed to get the ball on the outer as much as they possibly could. And when they did that, their ability to get ball from defence through their forward 50 was tremendous by Perth.
Yeah, Perth played much better than what they have been over the last 3 weeks. Like you said, they were just able to read the play so well whenever East Fremantle were going towards their forward 50. Players like Charlie Thompson, who had another good game. So too did Trent Manzoni, the former West Perth Premiership player, and Dakota Baldwin-Wright, who had a good stint in the ruck with 33 hitouts up against Ruben Maguire, who only had 20. But on the other side of the coin, East Fremantle's midfielders again stood up to the task. Milan Murdoch, 32. Tom Joyce also with 32. Yep. It was all class in the second half. I mean, 10 goals to 6 in that second half, ultimately proving the decisive factor for East Fremantle.
We're actually going to have a chat with Milan on Thursday.
Yeah, Milan Murdoch.
I've been speaking to him, so we're going to have a chat with him on the preview episode of this and releasing that separately as well. So if you're an East Freo fan, have a listen to that. But he's someone that we're going to be talking about all season. He was outstanding in the middle this week. And I noticed yesterday as well that they had their state training last night as well, Monday night. So, yeah, that's a name we're going to be talking about throughout this season. 32 disposals for Milan. Fantastic.
Get him in the on-ball rotation for that state game on May 19th. If you don't have him in your midfield, then there's something wrong with the selection. Up forward, John O'Marsh. He's back in form, I'll say. You know, he kicked one of the goals of the year early in that game. 3 goals for him on the day. He is back.
He is, and there was a fantastic goal that he got. He stepped around a couple of people in that forward 50 at the WACA, the Optus Stadium end, and he is back and he is firing on all cylinders. And I told you, if he just gets a little bit of time under his belt, he's going to kick a bag, and it's good to see him do it.
Now, Perth as well, they may have lost. It was only by about 4 goals. But are you starting to sense that Perth are starting to improve? Are they starting to get better as a side as the season goes on?
Yeah, like I said, there was glimpses in this game against the Sharks on Saturday where under pressure they performed really well. They knew just how to get the ball out of the situations that they were in where they weren't in control. They weren't overusing the handball, and they were trying to get it to the free man that they did have in their back defensive 50. Not all the time, but that's what they did try to do. So, yeah, great signs from Perth. The pressure, obviously, in the midfield, they completely lost that game in this game on Saturday, but there were glimpses of good stuff there from Perth.
And despite the loss, Peter German, should be satisfied with the effort that they put in for 4 quarters, only to be overrun in the second half. Now, East Perth, they came into the game against Pure Thunder 3-0.
One last thing I want to say about East Freo is I was at the game and I did watch a little bit because obviously it was all stuffed around because of Channel 7 and the league game was at 11:40 and all this kind of stuff. Now, I just noticed that, and it was played in its entirety. During the reserves game that Perth actually won, they played the East Fremantle song at the end of the game. So what I want to say to the poor ground announcer at the WAFL, I've done it. Have you ever done any of that kind of stuff?
I've done ground announcing. I did the Sheffield Shield last summer.
Exactly, and you did a great job of that. It's usually the young guy that wants to be a journalist or a commentator, wherever, giving it a go. Now, one word of advice. I don't know who it is, Paul, and I don't want to throw him under the bus, but one word of advice that you've got to do whenever you're ground announcing is you get your 2 files up of the 2 teams, and always at the end of the game shut the one that loses.
Yes.
You don't want to get any confusion at all. Just always X that one, so you're not going to get confused at all. Just a word of advice for the Sharks man there.
You got a feel for the guy that played the wrong song. But let's move on. East Perth and Pure Thunder. East Perth came into this game 3-0, but Pure Thunder, they came to Leederville Oval and got the points. The margin, 33 points at the end. East Perth very shoddy in front of goal. 6 goals, 17. Not very flattering.
I did see parts of this game. Obviously, it finished up. The East Freo game was all well and done before this one even started. But yeah, this is one that we obviously tipped East Perth in this one.
Yes.
Did you tip East Perth?
I did tip East Perth.
Yeah, so we both lost that one. We always talk about how hard Peel can be to tip because you never know who's coming in. But the great thing for Peel and the great thing for the Dockers as well is there's a lot of players in this side who are really, really pushing for, will be getting looked at by the Freo Dockers because they're performing extremely well.
Yeah, one of those players I'd have to say would be Tom Emmett. 17 touches and 3 goals too. He also took 3 very good marks. He'd be one to look out for if I was a Dockers selector. Also, Ben Hancock, he was fantastic. 22 disposals. Brady Gray, 19, and a goal up forward. But I have to say, on the other side of the coin, East Perth, I was very disappointed with their performance, not only with their inaccuracy in front of goal, but they just weren't getting first to the ball. They weren't showing the desperation that we have seen from them in the first 3 rounds. That's netted them their first 3 wins on the board. Wilcox was down, Schumacher was down, Crowden was down, and Tom North were down as well. They couldn't get their mids firing. Yeah,
and they only had 4 individual goal scorers in this game, so really struggled in this one. They're obviously wanting to get back up and going for this weekend in round 6, I believe.
Round 5.
Round 5 in this weekend of the WAFL. But yeah, disappointing from East Perth, but it's not panic stations just yet. They're still at the top end of the ladder. And if you're an East Perth fan, I wouldn't get nervous just yet.
Yeah, they played some good football. There's no doubt about that. But the only problems were the midfielders were down on form and they were inaccurate in front of goal. I mean, look at the scoring shots, 23-21. In favour of East Perth, and they lost the game.
Says a lot, doesn't it?
It does. It tells a story that why Peel Thunder, even though they had less scoring shots, they were able to control the game on their terms and make East Perth pay for a lot of their mistakes in front of goal. Now, this one was expected to be the match of the round, but it was Subiaco that delivered 9-12-66, defeating West Perth by 21 points, 6-9-45. Subi, after a bit of a wobble at the start of the season, they are back and firing. They are ready to contend for the premiership again.
Yeah, and I did say in our preview show on Thursday that the only reason I tipped West Perth in this because it was at Pentanet Stadium. We're expecting them to go up and win this game. Subiaco, they were just too good in this one. Played extremely good footy. West Perth disappointing to get a loss at home because they do play extremely good footy there, and they probably would pencil a lot of their home games as wins throughout the season. But yeah, no, great work by Subiaco, and looking forward to seeing them play throughout the season because I think they're a great side.
There's only one name that really was the first that came to mind out of that game. Zach Clark. He dominated.
Yeah, we've been talking about Zach Clark for a while, haven't we? How many disposals did he get in this one?
Well, he had 23, but 41 hit-outs. That really told the story.
So he is averaging over 40 hit-outs per game.
Absolutely.
And it's what we spoke about last week, Paul. He's getting first use of the footy, especially against a really experienced midfield like West Perth. When you've got some really great players in there, that's what you've got to do. These WAFL teams, when you're coming up against Subiaco, are going to have to work out a way to combat and be really defensive in the midfield.
But there was one big hole that West Perth had in their midfield. Aaron Black didn't play. He'd battled hamstring soreness in the days prior to the game and did not take the field for the game. So West Perth really missed that experience of Aaron Black, but they also missed the firepower up forward. Tyler Keitel was again down, only had a goal. Hinder and Rotham were among the goal kickers as well. Keegan also didn't play, so they've got key players missing in midfield and up forward that is posing some early problems for the Falcons.
Yeah. With Black in the side, do you think it would have made a massive amount of difference in this one?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, especially when Black not only is one of the prime key midfielders for West Perth, but also provides such experience to a West Perth midfielder that blends with youth and experience. So with his versatility, his aggression at the ball, that's what West Perth were lacking.
Is that something that you knew before the round, that he wasn't going to play? Is that why you tipped Subiaco?
I had a feeling that if Black wasn't going to play, that Subiaco would just capitalise on that and expose West Perth's weaknesses in the midfield.
Yeah, well, there you go. But no, the WAFL sides that take on Subiaco, they're going to have to work out a way to combat Zach Clark.
No, they absolutely have to. Now, South Fremantle and Swan Districts, I was at this game calling for the AFL app, and what a beauty this one was. At quarter time, a lot of people at the ground were thinking, okay, Swans have got this one in the bag. Wrong. Second quarter completely turned the tables, did South Fremantle, but Swan Districts, class under pressure. They got home by 18 points. Their first win at Fremantle Oval in 9 years.
Well, I'm pretty happy about this. I like South Fremantle, but I was just happy because I tipped them. You thought that I was crazy tipping them. A lot of people, I got a lot of texts about this one actually, Paul, saying, why on earth did you tip Swan Districts against a really good informed South Fremantle at Fremantle Oval?
But you were on the money.
Well, I just thought losing 2 games at home, against 2 teams that they probably should have beaten at home.
And another one by a point.
Exactly right. I just thought that they'd be coming out firing, and I was right. What was the intensity like in the first quarter when you were there?
Well, Swans provided all of that.
Yeah.
I mean, South Fremantle just lacked the discipline in midfield, and their defenders were often outclassed in those contests. And you had the likes of Jesse Palmer, who was sensational up forward, 4 goals. Jesse Turner played a little bit in defence as well as midfield and provided such creative flair. Jarvis Pena, who we're going to talk about a little later on, he was great in defender midfield roles. The intensity that the Swans produced was just outstanding. And yet there were times when they just panicked a little bit, overused the football, but the way they kept control of the game in the last 5 minutes in particular really showed that with the side that they've got under Andrew Prune, can be a strong side that can contend for the 5.
Well, and South Fremantle this weekend they take on Subiaco at Subiaco, so that's going to be a tough game for them as well. And that game's on 7-2, which will be great. But yeah, no, it is going to be hard for them, obviously, because they do start behind. They're still sitting on 0 at the moment. You're expecting them to play finals. I kind of half am. We'll see how the rest of the season plays out. But they've got a lot of hard work in front of them, especially when you look at the ladder, and that top 5 is so strong at the moment. It's going to be very hard for them to get through. Yeah,
especially with that deficit that they had to make up. Necessarily starting 2 games behind.
Yeah.
They needed to win last Saturday, having started their season from 0, and now they're stuck on 0. This loss does not help their cause, especially now that they have lost at Fremantle Oval, I believe 3 times in 3 years now, because South Fremantle have made it a fortress more often than not during that time period. And even with players like Dragovic, Bletchenden and Archie getting amongst the possessions, they saw a lot of the footy. They just lack that intensity, that discipline when they're going forward against a very good Swans defensive unit that just clicked.
So they've got, let's just look at their next month of footy. So they've got Subiaco next weekend.
Yep.
The weekend after that, they've got East Perth. And then the weekend after that. So East Perth is a winnable game for them. East Perth are in form, though. It is winnable, but it's not a given to them straight away. And then they've got Perth. So only one really guaranteed win in there in the next month of footy. They are in a bit of a tough spot at the moment. They would have been absolutely annoyed above all that they lost this Saturday.
Not just Subiaco, East Perth, but they've got the WA Derby on the Monday at the WACA. I reckon only one of them is going to be a winnable one for South Fremantle, and it's not going to be the Derby.
Yeah, well, they didn't want to raise the Derby one just yet. We're still a month.
No, they won't beat East Fremantle on the WA Day Monday. Take it to the bank. They won't do it. Right. Their streak will be dead.
I'm a bit nervous you're saying that as an East Freo man, because what's it been, 16 derbies that they haven't won or something?
15, I think. Someone to double check that for us.
Maybe I'm... Maybe I'm overdoing myself there, but yeah, no, I'm a bit nervous about that.
Well, it should be a great game, though.
Especially
on WA
if they lost 3 leading into it.
Yes, absolutely. Now, Clermont and the West Coast Eagles on Sunday to complete the round, 111 points. And I think the only thing that stood out for me was the Will Schofield encore.
Oh, the mechanic, Will Schofield. Yeah. What do you only have 7 disposals in this game? How'd you pull up, Will?
11, actually.
11 disposals
11
for Will.
disposals.
Hey?
How many touches did you
I haven't played.
I haven't played in like 20 years, and I'm a hack on the field anyway.
I haven't played AFL 23 yet. But no, no, I did say it. I think that was the only thing. And I think if you listen to any of the mainstream sporting shows that are on radio or TV or anything at the moment, that's what they're talking about. It's the Eagles. But not only from a WAFL point of view, but from an AFL point of view as well. Yeah, not much. Can you chuck Will on the microphone? Can we talk to him for a second? Yeah. We got an Eagles player. We may as well talk to him.
Let's get Scully on and provide his perspective on the day. His encore, the Will Schofield comeback tour, which may be pretty short, pretty much shorter than anything else. I don't know.
The mechanic. We got to call him the mechanic.
You got me over here, boys. You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you nice and clear.
What do you got for me, fellas?
Well, just what was your perspective of the game?
Less about the game, to be really honest. I mean, overall, that West Coast side is a bunch of amateurs, WAFL Resi's guys, country players. With Kay Mitchell comes back and plays. I'm playing. I think the overall system is set up incorrectly, and I don't have the solving solution. I don't have that final ending that makes it work properly. But I do think there's going to be twofold. I think they need to pull some restrictions away from the recruitment process by the West Coast WAFL side and allow them to be competitive.
Sure, yep.
There's some real fear that they're going to be too good of a side if they're allowed to recruit who they want. But I kind of think, well, if you're going to have the WAFL side, you want them to be competitive. And if they win it, they win it. Like, either do that or don't have it at all. But then, on the other hand, West Coast need to really invest and look, I don't know what the requirements are around, their own soft cap and salary cap and being able to support this football club. But currently with no Colts and no reserves, it's a standalone side.
Yeah.
They've got to really put the resources behind it for it to really work. I think it's got to be both sides. It's not just, poor West Coast and it's not the poor WAFL. It's got to be both sides coming together.
The way I look at it as well is, and Paul and I have spoken about it a lot, is the reason why I think Peel works really well is because there is that partnership that's there, and Peel are an actual football club.
Yeah, they have Colts, they have reserves, they have a zone that they recruit from the southern, Great Southern basically.
Yeah.
So, look, I don't know how you zone the West Coast side, and if you do that, but they don't have, they don't even have a bath to come back afterwards.
Yeah.
It's pretty much it's not a football club.
But even that, you don't even have like a. Did you say bath or bar?
Bar.
Oh, that's what I thought.
They have facilities.
Right? I was going to try and be smart and say, they don't have a bar either.
Correct. Well, they don't have a. As stupid as that sounds, like going back to the away rooms or the home rooms wherever it is, and having a function. There's no function.
You're right.
It's to be really frank, it's quite soulless. And it's no one's fault and it's everyone's fault at the same time. It's no fault of West Coast that it's like that because they're dealing with the restrictions, and it's not particularly the fault of the WAFL because I do understand what they're probably saying as well. But for it to really work, they need to take it seriously. It's like putting a Gold Coast GWS in and not allowing them to have some benefits around. Like, if you want it to work, you need to make it work. And I don't think either West Coast or the Commission or the WAFL, I don't think either of them are fully committed to making this work, and that's why it's not working.
Well, one key point I think you summed up there is that West Coast compared to Peel Thunder are not like a football club. They're not true to their identity in a way, so to speak, that soulless atmosphere that you talked about.
There's no identity. So, I've played across all. I've done the, interstate draftee to Peel, and I loved that, and I became a part of a football club. We didn't win many games at Peel in my first few years, but it was at least a football club that had a fine session, that had, $5 pints after training if you want to go and have chicken palmy. It was all of that. Like, that doesn't exist at West Coast, so there's not really an identity. And
so the last thing I want to say on it is you talk about the Footy Commission and the Eagles trying to work out how to get it right. Do you reckon that the Eagles, and I've always thought this, with the marketing power of the Eagles, I remember last year when East Freo were playing West Coast Eagles at Freo Oval, East Freo, Shark Park. I took my nephew down there who's 5. Yeah. He wore his Eagles shirt. He thought that the Eagles reserve size was the West Coast Eagles.
Yes.
Do you think they can market it better? Because I reckon if you did, you could get so many families along to one of these Eagles reserve games, try and build a bit of atmosphere like that. But it is pretty poor. Like, the crowds that they get there, when you think of the Eagles and the brand that they have, I reckon they can get so many more people there.
Yeah, I don't think that's probably, when I say it's on both sides, so there's elements from the Commission and the WAFL, but the elements from West Coast is that, they could market it better, they could cover it better. Realistically, it's a real opportunity for West Coast to use that to, grow aspiring media and journos within the footy club, coaches, young people that want to be involved in footy. It gives them an element of that, but then it goes back on the Commission and the WAFL being able to spend the money to do that, not just having staff at West Coast doubling up with what they're doing and it becomes an afterthought. It needs to be a real proper standalone, which it's not right now.
Well, there you go. Will the mechanics go, Phil?
Will the mechanics go, Phil? Just before we let you go, Scully, will there be a third encore for you on the field? No. Will there be a third encore, or is that it? Is that the curtain call?
I delisted myself 1 minute after the game against Claremont. Can barely walk, and I can still change a tyre quicker than both of you boys.
That might be a bit of content, Dan.
Who can change a tyre better? I think even Skeet on the Shelter Footycast mentioned about changing tyres. There should be a battle between Scully, UTC, and Skeet to see who can change a tyre the fastest.
I can tell you what, I reckon Skeet will be the slowest there.
Oh, golly. Thanks, Will. Let's move on. This is round 4 review on Around the Waffle. Taylor Cowper alongside Paul Persick. All right, TC, exciting time. One of the most exciting times in Around the Waffles here. Player of the Year voting time, and we'll get things started. One vote, Bailey Rogers of Claremont. I mean, his impact around the ground just outstanding.
10 inside 50s.
10 inside 50s. That's unbelievable. And 4 goals to boot, so he shifted up forward a little bit. Carl Warner for Peel Thunder, he gets 2 votes. 33 disposals. He even had 11 marks on the day in that win over East Perth. 3 votes, Milan Murdoch just continues his fine form this season. Another 32 disposals. We'll be speaking to him on Thursday, so make sure you check it out. Very hard to split between 4 and 5 this week, but my 4 votes goes to Zach Clark. What a performance. Just dominates in the run.
41 hit-outs, 23 disposals, 6 marks, and 5 inside 50s. It's a pretty well-rounded performance by Zach.
He's very stiff not to get the 5 votes, I will say. It's very hard to split him and the person who is the Around the Waffle top gun of round 4, Jarvis Pena of Swan Districts.
Yeah, played a great game of footy. 19 disposals, 4 marks and a tackle to go along with that as well. Played a fantastic game for the Swans' win over Fremantle, of course.
It was not just that. It's not just the numbers that really tell why he got the 5 votes, but how he's able to create those opportunities to go after the football, get first to it, and set up Swan District's transition from defensive 50 into attack. And the way he delivered the football during, especially when the Swans were in control of that game in the first quarter and in the third, when they started to extend that stretch once again, was just sensational. Class defender midfielder. He got the job done for the Swans, and he's the top gun of round 4.
So we go through what it looks like now. On 1 point, sharing it at the moment, Aidan Clark from the Swannies and Chad Pearson from the Dogs. 2, Cody Leggett from the Sharks. Jimmy Miller from South Fremantle. They both sit on 2. Do you want to take it over in here, 3?
Carl Warner and Tyler Keitel and Jai Bolton have 3 votes each. On 4, Zach Clark, Will Brodie, Jack Buller and Colton Tholstrup. On 5 is Milan Murdoch, Ben Sokol, Shane Nelson and Jarvis Pena. And still our outright leader after 4 rounds is Tom North of East Perth.
North, great season for him. Hopefully they can pull it back, because like I say all the time, if you want to get the votes in this, you've got to be winning footy.
You've got to be winning footy, and you've got to be getting the job done, not just for yourself, but also for your team as well.
Exactly. Yep.
Now, first month into the season, as we take a look at the ladder just quickly, 5 teams on 12 points. We mentioned at the top of the program about how open the competition has been so far. Where do you see the competition going from here this season? The way I see it, I reckon it's going to go right down to the wire, the race for the 5. Just like last year, it'll be 5, 6 teams battling for those final spots, and especially top 3. Whether you're 1, 2 or 3 in the finals, you've got a chance for the premiership.
Well, I just want to talk really quickly about this, because the first 5 at the moment, as the ladder sits after this round, it's Claremont, the Sharks, Peel, East Perth and Subi.
Yep.
Now, you also think West Perth could be in there too. And if my name's Paul Persick, you're probably chucking South Fremantle there too, because that's what you think. And also Swan Districts could be there too.
They could.
So the way that this plays out, you probably think maybe the Swans are going to be a bit stiff, especially considering they lost that 2 at home. It's going to be hard for them to pull them back as the season goes on. But I reckon your top 5 as it sits now looks pretty good. But you've also got to work out if West Perth are going to be in there, which I think they probably definitely going to be in there.
They should. I mean, 2 and 2, only early stages in the season, not pressing the panic button.
So the way I think then maybe Peel Thunder or East Perth probably fall out of the 5, and Swans and West Perth and South Fremantle might push in. But then I just think that two game that South Fremantle are back at the moment is just going to be too hard for them to pull back towards the end of this season as well, especially when you look at what Subiaco are still 3 games ahead of them. So it's going to be tough for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And another side that we have to look at in the 5 that maybe just needs to get a few more big wins under their belts is East Fremantle. I mean, they have beaten sides that they should beat, when you think about it, with the exception of Peel Thunder in round 1 where they lost by 4 points. They've got another big game coming against West Perth at the WAFL on Saturday. That one is going to be one where they can be a contender for especially for the double chance.
Yeah, 100%. And then they've got Subiaco as well at the WAFL too, so that will be an interesting game. And then they've also got the Derby coming up too. And then I'm just trying to find out who they've got the week before the Derby, Claremont at up in Broome.
Yes, that's going to be a
game
beauty
as well. So they've got a tough month of footy ahead of them, especially with West Perth next weekend. Coming off a loss, that's always tough. Subiaco is going to be extremely tough as well. And then you've got the Derby chatting in there too. Doesn't matter where those two teams sit on the ladder, it's still going to be a feisty game. So tough month of footy coming up for the Sharks.
And on the subject of the Sharks, listeners, tune in on Thursday. We've got a cracker
Milan.
of a show. Milan Murdoch, one of East Fremantle's prominent midfielders. He's had a great start of the season so far. He's going to be jumping on the show to have a chat with us.
Yes, looking forward to it, Paul.
Can't wait. I'll see you on Thursday.
See you then.
Listeners, we thank you very much for your company here on Around the WAFL. If you want to listen to us, you can check us out on wherever you get your podcasts, or you can watch us on the BackChat YouTube channel. Please like us on our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages. Give us a big thumbs up. We really appreciate it. We look forward to your company on Thursday when we preview Round 5 and our special guest, Milan Murdoch. We'll see you next time.